Every human being is an individual with their own likes and dislikes, their own interests and activities, their own talents and abilities. Every one of us unique and individual. In the same way that every human hand is different, each person's hand reveals volumes of information regarding that person's makeup and psychology. How do you ask? How does a maze of crisscross lines on the palm and the shape of our hand provide information regarding our character and talents? In the last few years, palmistry, or hand analysis, has moved rapidly to distance itself from the gypsy sideshow image of old. Consulting a modern hand reader is now more comparable to visiting a therapist than a gypsy charlatan. I'm Lee James, and together with world-renowned palmist and author Andrew Fitzherbert, we're going to unravel some of the mysteries surrounding palmistry.
Research into palm patterns has been going on at the Kennedy Bolton Laboratory near London since World War II. Recent research into dermatoglyphics, skin ridge patterns, is helping scientists to confirm that health factors are determined by the hand itself. The most recent research is revealing a depth of connection between the brain and the hand that was previously unimagined. Hands are controlled by a larger area of the brain than any other part of the body, and the number of nerve endings in the hands is second only to the brain itself. The lines of our palm, the ridge marks and skin patterns, even the shape of the hand itself is a map of our brain, a printout of our conscious and subconscious selves. This map shows our weaknesses and our strengths, our talents and our abilities, and all our future possibilities, be it with love, career, marriage, or money.
Would you like to read that map and learn to read the map of others? You can. It's easy.
Palmistry is known for its amusement value, the hand reader at the party, the sideshow palmist at the fair, each offering us a glimpse into the future. Will I be rich? Will I live to an old age? This is one of the oldest sciences passed down through the centuries. In that case, why is there more interest in palmistry today than ever before? Perhaps as the world shrinks and the human race becomes more homogenized, we need to know more than ever before, who are we as an individual? Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? These are the ultimate questions that arise to challenge us all.
Palmistry is now entering one of the most exciting phases in its ancient history. For as research into the relationship between the hand and the brain continues, science will soon reveal what the palmist has known for centuries, that palmistry can and does decipher the map of your character, your unconscious potential, and your future. Many books have been written on palmistry. However, we hope you'll find this format easy to understand and soon be reaching for others' hands as well as analysing your own, happily surprised at how easily you understand palmistry. The study of palmistry can be broken into four main parts: the hand shape, the lines of the palm, the fingers and thumb, and the fingerprints. Let's start with the hand shape. At its simplest level, the palm can be divided into two main shapes, the square and the rectangle. To do this easily, look at your own hand and imagine it without fingers. As you practice on other hands and observe a variety of hands, you'll be able to decipher shapes at a glance. Look at both hands. If someone's palm is square, you might consider the person to be emotionally stable. The person does not experience highs and lows of an emotional type. If the square palm has a rounded outer edge, these people are also creative in a practical, constructive way. If someone's palm is rectangular, it shows an emotional tendency. They may be emotionally volatile and excitable, or else emotionally sensitive and responsive. These palm shapes form part of a hand classification system. It was devised in 1960 by the artist and palmist Fred Gettings. He devised a system of 4 basic shapes based on the shape of the hand and the length of the fingers. Generally speaking, if you have long fingers, you tend to be precise and particular, even fussy. You love detail. Whereas if your fingers are short, you may be the opposite. You may be impulsive, always busy, with a strong dislike of detail. Of course, you may have medium-length fingers and be sensibly balanced between the two. In the getting system, a typical square palm can have long fingers or short fingers, and a rectangular palm can also have long fingers or short fingers. This gives us 4 basic hand shapes. Getting's called the square hand with short fingers an earth hand, the square hand with long fingers an air hand, the rectangular hand with long fingers a water hand, and the rectangular hand with short fingers a fire hand. What shape are you? The earth hand has a square palm with short fingers. People with earth hands are practical and reliable. They're steady and enjoy repetitive work. They like rhythm. They're conservative and slow to change. They don't get emotional easily, but they can explode if they let their emotions build up. The air hand has a square palm with long fingers. People with air hands are also emotionally stable. They're mentally alert, quick-witted and keen to learn. They express themselves well and often make a career out of their ability to communicate. The water hand has a long palm with long fingers. It's sometimes called the intuitive hand, and these people are extremely sensitive and aware. Their emotions are much more important to them than reason, and they tend to be idealistic. They are generally refined, graceful, with good taste. It's a feminine hand and often found on women. When found on a man, it indicates intelligence as well as these other qualities. Lastly, the fire hand. It has a rectangular shaped palm with short fingers. Someone with this hand is likely to be excitable, active and creative. The short fingers give a dislike for detail, while the long palm gives creativity and intuition. The fire hand person loves to control, are extrovert and are usually a lot of fun to have around. What shape are you?
This is simply a diagrammatic representation without any inner lines, so it doesn't tell us too much more than but the general hand shape. But when you get into the finer details, the curved headline, the curved heart line, the straight headline, the straight heart line, you are now looking at a very different and more complicated picture. Do you follow that?
I do.
All right.
The lines tell the story of our lives, our birth, our childhood and our education. They tell us of the past, the present and of future challenges. They really are our personal map of life. When looking at the lines, it helps to have a set format so as not to miss anything. There are 4 major lines, and we'll look at them one at a time. They are the heart line, the head line, the life line, and the fate line. Everyone has these major lines, and quite a few minor ones, although often the fate line isn't developed in children until they're 10 or 12, so don't worry if your child doesn't have one. Occasionally the fate line is missing altogether, and we'll cover that later. Most people have the first 3. Aside from looking at the length and depth of the lines, we'll also look out for markings such as breaks, crosses, chains, squares, triangles and islands.
The striking thing about your heart line is the presence of these 3 and 4 small lines off the end of it, What they indicate is that once you have got a worthwhile relationship, you will absolutely fall in love with whoever you're with and get very, very deeply involved indeed. Now, because they're not curved right up here, you will take a little time before you settle down into a relationship. You'll be more inclined to wait for exactly the right person before you let all the barriers down and really throw yourself into the relationship, which is exactly what you want to do and are designed to do, of course.
The heart line reveals matters of the heart and the emotions. It starts on the side opposite the thumb, and of the major lines, it is the line closest to the fingers. The first thing to note is whether the line is curved or straight. If curved, it generally bends upward, finishing on or between the first two fingers. A curved heart line indicates a romantic, warm-hearted and open nature, able to express easily the feelings of the heart. Someone with a straight line has no less romantic feelings, yet will possess a more practical attitude to affairs of the heart. This person may also have a problem expressing these feelings. They may even be more sensitive and tend to bottle feelings up rather than express them. In romance, they are likely to hold back rather than to make the first move.
The curved heartline person, however, will probably make all the moves. They will initiate the relationship quickly and just as quickly break it off. If things go wrong in love, they easily let go and get on with their lives. The next thing to look for is the length of the line and where it ends.
Ideally, it should end between the first and second fingers, as this gives a balance between the self and the rest of humanity. People with long heart lines ending under the index finger are generally very idealistic in their choice of partners, whereas those that end under or on the second finger are less committed emotionally, less fussy, and more concerned with their own gratification. Often the heart line will fork at the end, indicating a complex emotional nature, while many branches indicate an extremely emotional nature in all matters of the heart. This is known as the girdle of Venus and indicates great sensitivity. People with this line are often emotionally or artistically highly strung and need constant stimulation. If their energy is directed towards creativity, they can rise to great heights. If not, they may turn to drugs or extreme sexual behaviour.
The heart line not only provides information about love and relationships, it also reveals your ability to enjoy life, particularly your appreciation of beauty and the arts, and of your creative capacity.
A headline like yours finishing at about this point really doesn't indicate an imaginative approach. On the contrary, this is a down-to-earth and practical and realistic way of looking at things. But these extra lines growing out of the end of your headline are side issues, and they indicate that you're quite good at going off on sidetracks and not always paying attention to what you were supposed to be doing in the first place.
The headline shows how you use your mind and the quality of your thinking. It doesn't show the level of intelligence, but rather how you use the intelligence you have.
It begins on the side of your palm between the thumb and index finger and moves across to below the ring finger. One of the major factors to look for is its length. Someone with a long headline is detailed, thorough and complex in their thinking. People with short headlines are straightforward and practical in their thinking, and not overly analytical. They like to get in and do the job.
A long headline does not indicate more intelligence, just as a short headline does not indicate less intelligence. Rather, it shows the manner and style of using the intelligence you have.
A curved headline indicates a creative, imaginative approach in thinking, while a straight one shows a very practical, down-to-earth approach. This type deals with facts. The degree of slope also reveals whether or not the person is imaginative or practical in their style of thinking. A horizontal line indicates a practical, utilitarian approach, while the steeply sloping line indicates creativity and imagination.
Of course, you'll find many variations. For example, a short straight line would indicate a shrewd and practical mind, Many engineers have these, whereas a long curved sloping line would indicate great creativity, imagination and a love of fantasy. This combination of long curved and sloping might be found on a writer of fantasy books or games. Where the headline begins is also most important.
Joined to the lifeline indicates someone who is cautious and prudent. This person is not a risk taker. If the two lines are joined together for half an inch or so, it indicates an ultra-cautious and even fearful person who follows traditional and conservative values. If the line actually starts on the other side of the lifeline, you'll find conservative qualities in a sensitive person who lacks confidence. When the line is separated from the lifeline, yet still close, it indicates a confident person who has always been individual in their thinking. The further away from the lifeline, the more independent, original and enterprising that person will be.
Some people have a distinct fork at the end of their headline. This is known as a writer's fork, but certainly not limited to writers. It indicates a good imagination and the ability to manifest it into reality, a practical use of imagination. Ideally, the headline would be long, clear and well marked, indicating intelligence and clear thinking. Any marks, like chains for example, indicate stress or tension. A break in the line could even indicate a period of unconsciousness. If the line is faint and thin, the person will not be putting much effort into their thought processes. If it has an island on it, it could indicate a time when the thinking was confused or muddled, perhaps a mental crisis. The headline shows how a person uses his or her intelligence and reveals to you the thinking style and how to make the most of it. Next, the lifeline, how to read time and pinpoint major events on the palm.
Because your lifeline sweeps out here instead of curving round the thumb, this indicates that you're likely to travel extensively in the later years of your life, and that's backed up by all these little travel lines that actually do run out from the lifeline in the later years. Beyond that, though, the sweep of the line across here indicates a good deal of physical strength, but the fact that the line is thin is also a sign of sensitivity rather than just pure muscle power.
The lifeline is a line of physical vitality. It indicates the amount of energy and strength and vitality a person has.
It starts at the edge of the palm between the thumb and the index finger and circles the mount at the base of the thumb. If you see a long, clear lifeline, free of breaks, chains or islands, you can be sure its owner has plenty of vitality and a strong constitution.
The lifeline is the first line that is formed on the palm of the human embryo and is present by the 8th week. The heart and head lines follow shortly after. This confirms once again that the lines are not only crease marks caused by the flexing of the palm, because embryos have very little movement at this age. If the line hugs the thumb, it shows a lack of energy at one's disposal and the need to rest and utilise what energy one has wisely. Conversely, if the sweep of the line extends out into the palm, the owner will have plenty of energy and a vibrant, enthusiastic approach to life.
Especially strengthening is a line which follows the lifeline closely. Called a sister line, this gives additional strength and protection. A break in the lifeline is usually not serious and shows a major change at the time indicated. This is often a change of attitude or belief, precipitating external change. Markings on the lifeline show events and occurrences, and it's possible to divide the line into segments of time to pinpoint and maximise or minimise, as the case may be, the influence of events. There are several systems of marking time on the lifeline, and none are 100% accurate. What we show you here is only approximate.
Most timing systems in palmistry are based on the biblical lifespan of 70. Yet with growing awareness that the effects that diet, exercise and beliefs have on ageing and longevity, many of us will be living much longer than the traditional 70 and can look forward to being healthy, happy and active elders for some time. I'd like to emphasise that a short lifeline does not indicate a short life, just as a long lifeline does not guarantee longevity. One cannot and must never presume to be able to predict someone's death through palm reading. The palm is a map of the mind and consciousness, and as consciousness changes, so too does our map.
You actually have two fate lines, a strong one right up through here, and this secondary fate line coming in from the outer edge of the hand. This indicates a basic innate tendency to follow a career and to work very solidly at what you do. But coming in from the side, we also have leanings towards being out in front of the public and relating to people and communicating with the outside world.
The fate line is the line of psychological stability. It reveals your attitude to work and the stability in your life. All people have a heart line and a lifeline, but not so with the fate or destiny line. If absent from the palm, that person will not have focus or a sense of purpose. People without a fate line often have trouble fitting into social structures. They become misfits and irresponsible. Many palmists and doctors have noted that alcoholic men are often found to be without fate lines. A great help to these people, particularly when young, is to give them a sense of direction through encouragement. Often this type will join the armed forces and thereby let the institution supply the lacking purpose and self-discipline. The reverse in this case, a long, deep and straight fate line, does not ensure success either. It is indicative of a person who settles quickly into a constant and settled life. Yet a homeless person in the streets could have a long fate line and stay that way because of it. The fate line could be long, short, broken, crooked, or even many small pieces.
When present, it usually commences near the wrist at the base of the palm and proceeds up towards the fingers. It does not always start at the wrist. If it begins high, it indicates a late start to one's chosen career or purpose. If it starts low on the wrist, the reverse is true. One probably went straight from school or university into their chosen profession. If it starts inside or attached to the lifeline, it indicates a major parental or family influence that affects you still. If the line starts away from the lifeline and closer to the centre of the palm, it shows a more independent start to life. If the line starts further than halfway, the independence is accentuated. A break in the line could indicate a change in a job or career, and if the lines overlap, the change will be successful.
Many fate lines aren't particularly clear or easily defined. They fade, become strong again, and this usually indicates a time in life when direction was lacking. Overall, the fate line is the line of character and stability. And remember, if your child is missing a fate line, don't worry. About 30% of children do not have a fate line at the age of 8. Most grow one over the next few years. The heart line, the head line, the lifeline and the fate line are the major lines of the palm. Many of the fine lines are caused through nervous tension. There are, however, some minor lines that require a mention. Firstly, the health line.
It starts at the base of the thumb and makes its way towards the little finger. Sometimes it joins the lifeline. Feel relieved if the health line is absent, as this shows good health. If it is present and unbroken and strong, this is also an indication of good health. If the line is marked or broken, it can indicate poor health. Perhaps something as simple as a change in diet is required. The sun line is parallel to the fate line. Most sun lines are short and start near the head line, running towards the third finger. This is the line of success and indicates confidence, optimism, and possibility of real achievement, particularly in the arts. The simian crease is when the head and heart lines join to form one line. It is sometimes found in one hand, though very rare to find it on both. It indicates stubbornness and single-minded pursuit when following interests. If found on someone's dominant hand, they're likely to be very strong and definite in all they say and do.
Next, what the shape and length of the fingers say about one's character. Earlier we looked at hand shapes to get an initial overview of the individual. Now we'll look at the thumb and fingers. Are the joints smooth or prominent? What is the length of each individual finger? Are they close together or spread out? Is the thumb long or short? The thumb, in fact, plays a major role in palmistry, and generally speaking, the longer the thumb, the greater the strength and willpower. Thumbs say an enormous amount about one's ability to succeed in life and deserve to be studied separate from the fingers, just as they are separate on the hand.
The thumb can be divided into two sections by the middle joint, called the phalange. Ideally, these should be the same length, so that balance is present. However, if the top phalange is longer, it gives the person great determination to achieve their goal, even though they make a lot of mistakes along the way. If the lower phalange is the longer, it indicates a greater sense of logic than willpower. And though the person may have an abundance of ideas and of ways to achieve them, they may lack the willpower required to see it through. The average angle of the thumb in relationship to the hand is about 45 degrees. If the angle is wider, it generally indicates generosity in proportion to the angle. If the angle is smaller, it indicates a person of limited outlook.
Thumbs can be high set or low set, yet one of the major indicators on a thumb is the flexibility. If the thumb can be flexed back at the joint, the person is generally flexible and easygoing. If the joint is stiff, it's a good indicator that the owner also will be unbendable, determined, and probably a little stubborn. A good rule of thumb to remember.
The striking thing about your fingers is that not only are they all exactly the length that they should be, but they're all beautifully straight. This is a very healthy and clear way to be. Very straight fingers like yours always go with a well-balanced personality. The only thing that is very slightly out of plumb is this very slight curve on your index finger. That's a cautious indication and goes with looking where you're going and not taking any risks, no bungee jumping for you, stuff like that. But otherwise, a lovely, clear, balanced set of fingers like this indicates a lovely, clear, balanced personality.
The first thing to look at are the joints. Are they smooth or pronounced? Pronounced joints are called knotty by palmists and indicate a logical and analytical mind, like a scientist. Smooth fingers without the pronounced joints indicate a more intuitive, instinctive type.
If the fingers are fanned out, it indicates an outgoing sort of person, while fingers held together indicate a more introverted type of character. Each finger has its own particular meaning, and of these, the index finger is probably the most interesting. It is the finger relating to your sense of identity and how you express it in the world. The symbol of I.
Like Jupiter, the king of the Olympian gods, after whom it is named, this finger denotes leadership ability coupled with ambition and ego. Ideally, this finger should be equal in length to the third finger, or half to a third of the way up the top phalange of the middle finger. People with long Jupiter fingers are very determined, and if extremely long, it shows egotism. If short, it indicates a lack of confidence, and if extremely short, timid and fear. If of equal length to the third finger, it shows someone with moderate ambition and a healthy self-esteem. Ideally, the phalanges should be equal, and if the finger curves in towards the middle finger, it indicates insecurity and a lack of strong personal identity. Not a favourable shape for the first finger, as this is the finger of Jupiter, ruler of the good life and how to obtain it.
The second or middle finger is known as the Saturn finger, and as such refers to duty, common sense and responsibility. It's the longest finger of the hand, and for most people it's of average size. If you find someone with an overlong and dominating middle finger, it indicates a serious outlook and a life of restriction and responsibility. If short, it suggests a lack of care and even irresponsibility. Most people have a straight and normal sized satin finger, and as such have prudence and a sensible attitude to responsibility and life in general.
The satin finger sometimes curves towards the ring finger, and it indicates that a person restricts and underrates their creative ability. They need support and encouragement.
The ring or Apollo finger is the finger of creativity, art, beauty and fulfilment. Ideally, it should be equal to the first finger or looking from the back of the hand, reaching halfway up the nail of the middle finger. If longer, the person will definitely have an artistic nature and probably also take risks or gamble, be it with money or life. Short Apollo fingers are more rare and indicate a creative nature stunted in childhood.
The ring finger that curves towards the middle finger indicates an emotional immaturity or a tendency to sacrifice, perhaps work in an artistic field or something more mundane and secure.
The little finger is known as the Mercury finger, and as the wing-footed Mercury was the messenger of the gods, so too the Mercury finger relates to communication, but not only self-expression in communication, but also in one's sexuality.
Ideally, the little finger should reach to the baseline of the top phalange of the ring finger, as this indicates a quick intelligence and good communication skills. Longer than this indicates better than average communication skills. Yet if shorter, the person may have difficulty in expressing their thoughts and emotions. If extremely short, that person may act immature and even look much younger than they actually are. They may also be sexually immature and have problems relating to sex.
Notice when looking at the length of the Mercury finger how low the finger sits on the hand. All Mercury fingers are low set, so to class one as low set, it must really be noticeable.
A very low set finger relates to an emotional stress in early years, something that is still affecting a current relationship.
Coming up next, fingerprints.
You have 3 loop fingerprints and 1 whorl fingerprint on this finger. The whorl on this finger is a typical artistic indication. It indicates at the very least that your sense of colour is well developed and that you'll be good at arranging or decorating things. The loops go with being easygoing, friendly, a positive sort of person who gets on well with just about everybody. But in this finger and this finger, the loops run backwards, back to front, and that indicates that friendly as you may be, you hate taking orders and being told what to do.
The police have been studying fingerprints since the end of the last century, while palmists have been studying the psychological meanings of fingerprints since the 1930s.
To study fingerprints, you need to examine the hand in bright light and perhaps with a magnifying glass, or take a print. The 3 most common types of fingerprints are the loop, the whorl and the arch. Loops are the most common. Most people have 1 or 2 of these. Some have loops on all of their fingers. Loops show that you are adaptable and easygoing. You work well with others and have an all-round ability. You generally take a middle-of-the-road approach. Whorls, however, indicate a more individual character. A person with predominant whorls on their fingers shows strong opinions and ideas clearly formed. It shows a thoughtful and often secretive nature.
It is rare, however, to find someone with whorls on every finger. The presence of a whorl indicates originality in whatever that particular finger represents. For example, someone with a whorl on their second finger, which represents work and stability, would be a specialist in their chosen field of work.
The third of the most common prints are known as arches. A person with arches will be practical, reliable and hard-working. Positive aspects are steadiness and the ability to get things done. Negative aspects may be reluctance to change and dullness.
Arches can be high or low. If higher, it indicates more skill and idealism in the area indicated by the finger. A variation of the arch is the tented arch, so called because of the little vertical lines in the middle, like a tent pole. It's a sign of enthusiasm. Another more rare print is the composite, which is composed of two loops curling around each other. The owner of these prints see both sides of the situation and many different ways of achieving goals. Consequently, they have difficulty making up their minds. A lesser known area of dermatoglyphics are the skin patterns that occur all over the palm and feet. Several palm patterns are worth mentioning.
The loop of seriousness between the second and third fingers indicates a sensible and reliable person, one with a sense of responsibility and the desire to help others. The loop of humour between the ring and the little fingers shows a happy, cheerful nature, an optimist who doesn't take things too seriously. Now, the absence of this loop doesn't indicate the absence of a sense of humour, although when present it does show someone with a developed sense of fun, perhaps bordering on a love of the absurd.
Many other loops and palm patterns are present on the hand and can be deciphered with the help of any leading book on the subject. I hope you found this program helpful and interesting. By now you'll be amazed at the insights you've gained about yourself and other people, even with a simple glance at their hands. Remember, when giving readings, you have the power to influence people greatly. Be gentle and think before you speak.
Our future possibilities, be it with love, career, marriage or money.
Would you like to read that map and learn to read the map of others? You can. It's easy.
Palmistry is known for its amusement value, the hand reader at the party, the sideshow palmist at the fair, each offering us a glimpse into the future. Will I be rich? Will I live to an old age? This is one of the oldest sciences passed down through the centuries. In that case, why is there more interest in palmistry today than ever before? Perhaps as the world shrinks and the human race becomes more homogenized, we need to know more than ever before, who are we? As an
Every human being is an individual with their own likes and dislikes, their own interests and activities, their own talents and abilities. Every one of us unique and individual. In the same way that every human hand is different.
An individual. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? These are the ultimate questions that arise to challenge us all.
Palmistry is now entering one of the most exciting phases in its ancient history. For as research into the relationship between the hand and the brain continues, science will soon reveal what the palmist has known for centuries. That palmistry can and does decipher the map of your character, your unconscious potential, and your future. Many books have been written on palmistry. However, we hope you'll find this format easy to understand and soon be reaching for others' hands as well as analysing your own, happily surprised at how easily you understand palmistry. Each person's hand reveals volumes of information regarding that person's makeup and psychology. How do you ask? How does a maze of crisscross lines on the palm and the shape of our hand provide information regarding our character and talents? In the last few years, palmistry or hand analysis has moved rapidly to distance itself from the gypsy sideshow image of old. Consulting a modern hand reader is now more comparable to visiting a therapist than a gypsy charlatan. I'm Lee James, and together with world-renowned palmist and author Andrew Fitzherbert, we're going to unravel some of the mysteries surrounding palmistry.
Research into palm patterns has been going on at the Kennedy-Bolton laboratory near London since World War II. Recent research into dermatoglyphics, skin ridge patterns, is helping scientists to confirm that health factors are determined by the hand itself. The most recent research is revealing a depth of connection between the brain and the hand that was previously unimagined. Hands are controlled by a larger area of the brain than any other part of the body, and the number of nerve endings in the hands is second only to the brain itself. The lines of our palm, the ridge marks and skin patterns, even the shape of the hand itself is a map of our brain, a printout of our conscious and subconscious selves. This map shows our weaknesses and our strengths, our talents and our abilities, and all